This is the Unfashionably Late podcast, whether you're watching along or listening on the go. I'm Rob.
And hello, shoppers, I'm Maddie.
Today, we're joined by someone who spent the entirety of January 2026 deep in the heart of Midtown Manhattan's theatre district. Performer, reviewer, storyteller, and relentless stage hunter, Daniel Kavanagh.
Now,
Hi, hello.
not only that, Rob, Dan is a drama teacher, a singer, actor, director. He is a multi-Conda award-winning actor. And for those of you playing at home, that's the City of Newcastle Drama Awards.
Drama Awards,
Yeah.
yes.
He's also a writer and director. He wrote Cinderella the musical, which starred my good self as the stepmother. And
hmm
it's a testament to the old saying, you work hard, practice your craft, and one day you'll end up playing back up to a drag queen. Uh, Dan was my backup singer in my live show from the noughties called Just Maddie. And he was a person who'd always say to me back in the day, is that really a good idea? When I was thinking I could sing Patti LuPone numbers or be a drag Ariel or something like that. Most recently, he was seen as Elwood's dad in a Sydney production of Legally Blonde the musical. He's an all-round great guy and one of my best besties.
Yay! The
Yeah,
hardest role I've ever played.
yeah, true. It's did
And the
so many
least
auditions.
lauded.
No
Yeah, the
doubt,
worst
though.
pain.
No doubt, though, he's responsible for so many, many things. But enough about his sordid past.
Mm,
Daniel hit the Great White Way in January with one mission, and that was not only to freeze his nips off, but to
yeah.
experience and dissect and celebrate the newest and most buzzed about Broadway productions. From electrifying musical premieres to daring dramatic debuts, he's taken notes and got the receipts and caught those kind of moments that make theatre live forever in our memories. So whether you're a seasoned playgoer or curious about what's lighting up the marquees this season, settle in because Daniel's about to take us on a theatrical journey complete with insights, standout performances, and moments that made the start of 2026 on Broadway one for the books. So let's raise the curtain and welcome to the pod, the one and only Daniel Kavanagh.
Hey, what a great intro.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. So,
It's lovely to be with you guys. I've been watching you for so long. It's nice to actually be on this side of it.
pleasure to have you. How was the flight? And particularly, I want to know because a lot of Aussies and other non-Americans are avoiding going to the States. So, trying to
Yeah.
get through customs and all that. How was that?
Well, there was a lot. Yeah, I had a lot of anxiety about that, and I think ultimately it was a few factors that kind of tipped me over the balance of actually going, and that was the price of the airfare was particularly low in the week that I went. In that dead part of January where everyone's back from their Christmas holidays, but school teachers are still sitting around. So I thought, you know what, I think I will give it a go, and my Esther came through really quickly, and so I thought, all right, I'll give it a whirl. And my doctor who travels there a lot, my GP, he said to me, "Oh, you're a 50-year-old gay man. No one cares about you." And I went, "Oh, okay. Well, maybe I won't have trouble at the border." And funnily enough, it was really smooth. I do acknowledge that I am, of course, very privileged because I'm a very tall white man who looks like a normie. So of course I just got waved through.
Yeah.
But every single flight that I had was delayed, but I don't think that has anything to do with any of the border control. So
No,
I was that was surprisingly nice that I managed to just that was quite smooth.
Which
that's
point of
to do
entry
with
did
the
you go
fact,
through?
though, sorry,
Mm.
that's just got to do with the fact that Americans should not be allowed to run airlines, right?
Oh, yeah, it is. They are particularly unorganized in terms of just their attitude. They kind of like everyone's like standing there to, scan everything and put all their stuff on the trays and all that. And they're not looking, they're on their phones, they don't care. So I was like, does anybody want to check anything? Like, and by the way, we're all just standing around. Can we kind of move through this line? So yeah, I think Australians are really good at following rules, which I found quite amusing. That Americans seem to be less organized in those kind of social group situations, whereas Australians are like, right, where's the queue? Here we go. I'm in line. Don't push in. So we kind of have a lot of that going on. But yeah, so I traveled into San Francisco. I hadn't been into there before, but my flight went from Brisbane to San Fran and then on to Newark. So I can now officially say that I have traveled to New Jersey. And I'll add it to my little scratchy of the world map that I have. But yeah, look, it was particularly, as much as those long haul flights are, it was pretty painless. Painless. I flew with United, who I was really impressed with. I thought it was really good. They
Oh
didn't
wow,
make me
they've
sick. I had a
obviously
comfortable
picked their
seat.
game up.
Yeah. Well, no, because I'd had heard that they weren't wonderful, but
Mm.
no, recently in the last couple of years they've really kind of tightened things up, and it was really good. They were really good. I really liked working with them, and their app is great. I knew where my bag was at any given moment.
Oh wow, without an air tag.
No, no AirTag or anything. It's all just done through the app. So I was like, oh, that's changed.
Oh, brilliant. Well, that's
So,
that's some
so,
good news.
so you
Mm.
landed in Newark,
Hmm.
got off the plane, popped your puffer jacket on ASAP because it was freezing, but you missed a lot of you missed the really bad snowstorm stuff, didn't you? That happened not long after you left.
Yeah, yeah. I left the day before. So every day on the news, there was like everyone's like, don't go outside, lock all the door. Like everyone was like panicking, and it was really like, so, and I was like, oh, I'm out of here. So I kind of, the last day I was there, I could feel it, the temperature dropping. It was quite cold, but I think once the wind picked up, it got really cold. So it was kind of still during the week. It was weird. Kind of, I haven't been to New York at that time of year before. And so it's great because there's very much, like in Midtown, it's like much less crowded. Like there's fewer people around and less annoying kind of having to, because I hate people. So the most annoying was actually, I guess, being at the theater because that was a big groups of people having to move in and out of buildings, and they kind of go, everybody in, sit down, everybody out, go. Like it's kind of the
Mm.
business of it. It's quite fun, quite fun. It's not like here where everyone's kind of, we're going to go to the bar and we'll have a lovely glass of wine and wander around. It's really kind of like, it's like a school excursion. It's like,
And
sit in
you
your seats, don't go to the toilet, you're not coming back in. Like,
and you
and then it's like 10 minutes afterwards, like everybody out, get out, we're locking the doors.
and you
So
sit there and you drink your $55 cup, plastic sippy cup of red wine, while you're watching the show. So you hit Manhattan and you basically went straight to the theater, didn't you?
I did. I got in about 2 hours later than I thought, which is good. So I kind of thought I won't book anything on that first night because I was supposed to get in about 6 o'clock, and I thought, oh, I could pop around the corner, but I thought, nah, something will go wrong, and it did. So yeah, so I had a good night's sleep, and then I went straight up to Lincoln Center the next morning, and the first thing I saw was a matinee of Ragtime,
So
which
tell me about Ragtime because I mean you and I both etched into our memories is video of the late great Marin Mazzie
ran
in
amazing.
Ragtime. So tell us about Ragtime.
Now Ragtime's one of those shows I it was always in the periphery. Like so when we were growing up, of course, we had all those cast recordings of all those big shows, and Ragtime was, of course, one of the last shows to try and emulate that kind of Les Mis Phantom kind of, big dramatic score and sound. And so it went up in 1998 against Rent. And of course, I'm not sure if anyone's heard of Rent, but it changed, Broadway forever, and it swept the Tonys and kind of, stole Ragtime's thunder. And Ragtime was going to be the show they thought was going to be the big one because it was about a, big sweeping epic piece of theater about, American history and involving lots of cultural significance. And of course, launching the careers of Audra McDonald and Maren Maisie, of course, who we love. And so this production is a production by, Lincoln Center. And so there's been a lot of criticism from people criticizing the set design of the show, saying they felt it was kind of a real bare stage with a couple of projections and not much stuff there. I was sitting in the front row, so I hadn't had that moment because it was my first Broadway show. I had my little playbill, and the ushers kept going, "No, no, further down. No, you're further closer." And I was like a little kid going, "Am I on the stage?" Like so, I sat down because my ticket said C row, but they'd obviously moved it out because they've got this big revolve that they use, and so C row was the front row, and I was like, "Oh, this is exciting." So I sat down and kind of, did my neck stretches because I was going to be looking up at it. But
Yeah.
they all kind of emerged from the floor in the prologue, and I thought, oh, I'm on board. This is fantastic. And so just the score, huge Broadway score, and they had an acoustic piano. Because I was, clearly looking into the pit because I was in the front. So they, the idea that a lot of Broadway shows now are kind of bringing down their musicians and having fewer and fewer. But this, they had the whole full orchestra there and actual no keyboards or electronic instruments. They actually had the upright piano there that the conductor sat his score on while the guy played it. And I thought, that's great. And so the score was just fantastic and just, great big ballads for 2.5 hours. And I just sat there and cried myself, into the afternoon and had to go and get some water to rehydrate because I just wet my shirt. But
So was
yeah,
the
it was
was the
fantastic.
crying from the fact that you were watching Ragtime, or the fact of like, oh my God, I'm on Broadway?
I think it was a few of those things. I've got this weird reaction that if I hear great music and loud singing, it hits me in a physical way that makes me go. So I have like this physical reaction, which
Yeah.
people often make fun of me for. So my ex always used to like would watch something and there'd be loud music. He'd literally look straight at me and go, "You crying?" I'm like, "Not yet." But no, I did like all these moments where I was like, "Oh, I remember this bit. Oh, I love this
Yeah.
song." So and Casey Levy, of course, was playing the Marin Maisie role, and she certainly did it justice. She did that big number in the second act, the Back to Before, which is, of course, really associated with Marin Maisie and her performance of it. But I thought, you know what? I think she did a great job. And I was ready to not like it, but she really won me over. She was fantastic. As was Josh Henry, who played the lead as well. I've forgotten the name of his character, but he was just magnificent. And he's blowing up on TikTok at the moment because their cast recording's just been released, and so
Oh,
good
cool.
for them. They're getting a lot of people interacting with that score. So yeah, it was great way to start the trip.
And
Lovely.
thoughts about where Ragtime's going to sit with Tony noms?
I think in terms of the revivals, um, I think it's got a pretty good chance of being up there. I'm not sure it's going to win um, some of the design options because look, it was a little bit bare, and of course because it's a big show like that and so many people know it so well, there's a lot of expectation. But I think the performances were top notch. The music was great. It was well staged. I hear there was a little bit of controversy leading up to opening in terms of it not being quite ready. And so there's a lot of
Mhm.
behind the scenes kind of industry goss about some of that. So who knows how much that's going to, like Tony voters, get swayed a little bit by, the talk of the town. But for me, as a product and as a tourist and as someone who's an audience member and just a lover of theatre, I just thought it was magnificent.
Fabulous.
Fantastic. Well, Ragtime is going to be playing through, I think, June 14 this year at the Vivian Beaumont Theatre at Lincoln Centre. So if you're in town,
Mhm.
go check it out. It's obviously recommended.
And the next show that you saw was one that
Mhm.
I've been hearing a lot about, and that is Oh Mary. So originally opening with Cole Scholar, who won the
Tony
Yes.
Award-winning Cola
award.
Scholar.
Yes, yes, yes.
um, and then
Writer, producer, Cola Scholar.
Yeah.
Jinx Monsoon from Drag Race. You saw Jinx, and this was her second run in the show, opposite
Yeah.
Cheyenne Jackson. And we've had Jane Krakowski play the role. We've had Titus Burgess. John Cameron Mitchell is about to go into the role. So tell us about it because you went and saw this twice, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Because I'm an organizational freak, I decided to book all my first couple of days in advance, knowing that I'd have, stuff booked in. I was planning to wing it once I got there. And so I thought I'll fill up my first few with things that I pre-book. And so I booked what I thought was quite a great, bargain to see O'Mary, but it was a balcony ticket. And I've learned that lesson, the hard lesson, don't book balcony seats. I'm like, life is too short for bad theater seats. So I had a great view of the top of everybody's head. So that was great. It was still very enjoyable, but I did feel like I was on a school excursion once again, being stuck in the cheap seats. So I booked to go back and see it again because, I used my Today Tix app and I saw that there was a front row seat. And I thought, oh, great, I'll go and I'll get that again. And it turned out to be Cheyenne Jackson's final performance. So I managed to get a really, really close photo of him taking his final bow as they presented him with his flowers for his final performance. But it's funny because I don't want to say too much about the show, but I think the hype is absolutely lived up to. It's the only word I can use to describe it is stupid. It was a really stupid show, and I think looking at the other things that are on at the moment and the sort of work that's being produced. That's what's cutting through. People want a good belly laugh and something that's really silly. But it's not stupid as in it's like poorly written. It's a clever show that takes the stupidity of the premise and does it absolutely perfectly. So it is just a ridiculous exaggeration of, well, what if, Mary Todd Lincoln was this tortured, monstrous kind of alcoholic ex-cabaret star who's being, kind of held in the White House by her husband. And of course, it's this great queer telling of that story in time. Like, you're not going to learn anything about the historical period, but It is nice to have something that's so unabashedly kind of queer and joyful. Um, in relation to what's going on with the rest of them. So that just the humor and the timing and just the artistry of everybody working together as such a tight ensemble on stage was just great. It was just so wonderful. There is not a moment in that show that hasn't been organized and thought through and planned. And it's just so wonderful to watch these amazing virtuoso performers engage in such stupidity in just a textbook, comedic, tour de force.
It
Yeah,
sounds like it's the true definition of camp.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Like,
Mm.
and of course, like I mean the gags kind of do all rely on that sensibility. Like I mean, one of the opening moments is, she comes bursting into to the Oval Office and she's trying to sniff out where the husband's, what's his name? Abraham Lincoln, where he's hidden the whiskey bottle because she's desperate for a drink. And so she spends 5 minutes just running around the stage screaming like Regina George at the end of, Mean Girls, just and then taking a breath and going back into it again. And then she turns up stage and looks at the portrait of George Washington and she just goes, "Oh, mother." And I was like, "Oh, that's so funny. That's the stupidest thing." And it's that kind of joke. So it's
okay.
really clever and really silly, but you can tell, and it's interesting to see how many people have actually been able to go through that role because I have seen little bits and pieces of Jane Krakowski's performance and I've seen bits of Titus Burgess's performance. And what is so clever about it is it works no matter who's doing it.
Yeah.
So, and I'm heading to London in April, and we're going to go see it while we're there and see the London cast of it as well to see how it works in that context. So it'll be interesting to see how it does hold up with a whole new cast and a whole new production. But yeah, look, it was so much fun. Went saw it twice. I paid over $300 to see it. It
Yeah,
was,
and
yeah,
look,
and it was worth it.
Mm.
how was Jinx? Because this is Jinx's third big turn on the Broadway. She went into Chicago,
Hmm.
it's probably like I think it's the longest running revival on Broadway, into a very well-established production that is designed to star cast or stunt cast several roles in it at any one particular time.
Yeah, yeah, that show's a machine. Yeah.
Yeah, then she went into create the role in Pirates the Musical, which was a slightly
Hmm.
revamped version of Pirates of Penzance, and then she's gone into this. Now,
Yeah.
how was she?
She was amazing. Like, I mean, anyone who's seen any of the live work that she does with Ben de la Creme knows that, she's got that long she can sustain a whole show. It's not like she's a one-trick pony. She's a real comedian. And watching her go through this, and it's a quick 90 minutes, no interval. It goes all the way through, but she's on stage the whole time. And there's no breathing space. And you kind of sure you're going, oh, it's Jinx, but you're not kind of going, it's the celebrity of her is not what it is that makes um the draw to that show appealing. And I think of course things have got, and I hear that now Maya Rudolph's now going to be the new Mary after
Oh,
John Cameron Mitchell finishes their run. So it's going to be
yeah.
interesting to see that as well. Like, I mean, I can already imagine what that would be like. But
Mm.
I think with Jinx, I think Jinx is probably the least stunt casty out of all of them, considering how she plays the role. Yeah.
Yeah, Jane Krakowski, in several interviews, actually piped up and kind of said, "Oh, well, when I went and saw Cole off Broadway and saw the production,
Mm.
she was like, 'Has he written this for me?'"
Yeah, no, I
So
saw
it's
that.
like,
And I
oh,
think a
yeah,
few of them have thought that too. So I think that's what's interesting about it. And I love the fact that it's a non-musical work that is, surviving in, these economic times, with this sense of not necessarily stunt casting, but being able to sustain itself with these new perspectives that come from these amazing comedic performers.
mm,
And there's a lot of them out there, and so it'd be interesting to see who's next. Like, I mean, the roll call of the Marys. Like, I mean, they've got a different Broadway a poster of each of the Marys, for sale at the Playbill store, and I'm kind of like, there's five of them now. Like, I mean, how many more are there
yeah.
going to be?
Well,
What
they're
a great
they're.
club to be a part of.
I think they're looking at doing a multi-city tour as well. San
Yeah, yeah,
Fran
yeah.
and LA and a couple other stops. So I think that's going to be interesting because then they'll be able to pull in people from those territories that might also be,
Mm.
TV performers or
Yeah,
such. Not
absolutely.
necessarily just New Yorkers.
Mm.
So,
And I think it was really bold of them to go with Jinx early in the run before they started calling on people like, and also Betty Gilpin, of course, as well, who no
mm,
one would have thought, because she's a great comedic actress, but not that style of comedy. So people know her a lot from, from what was that show she did, the wrestling thing that she did, the Glow, and of course, like she's a great actress in film and television, but I don't think people have seen her do things like this. So. It would have been nice to see her in it as well. She was in it for a few weeks as well, and it clearly was going gangbusters by then. So yeah.
So from O'Mary,
Hmm.
one end of the theatrical spectrum to the other, you then went to see Masquerade, which is the immersive reimagining of Andrew Lloyd Webber's mega musical hit, The Phantom of the Opera. Um, Now,
Mm.
directed by Diane Paulus. Now, the last Diane Paulus thing that I saw would have been her production of Pippin on Broadway that won multiple Tonys. Um, this is immersive. I
Mm.
saw the immersive Macbeth when I was there last time, Sleep No More, and
Sleep No More.
I got really lost in that and didn't care for it. But this was a slightly different kind of setup. Tell us about it.
Look, I think saying that I saw Masquerade is probably not the right word to describe it. I was in Masquerade. So it starts off, and it's kind of staged in like an old like fabric store. So imagine your spotlight over many floors. Of course, we remember the Waltons building in Newcastle. Like imagine that two or three more floors tall, and the whole thing has been completely transformed to all of the different locations within the Paris Opera. So
wow.
you go in, they put the little sticker on your phone because people are annoying and they don't want people taking photos. Everybody
I've got
had to
on the phone to
dress.
yell at you in case you caught filming.
Oh yeah, well, I didn't want that because I hate being like in public. I like again I like to follow the rules. So everybody turned up and was standing on the street, in -7 degrees in their formal attire with all of their masks. I didn't have one, of course, because I was traveling, and they will give you one, and it's got a little phantom insignia on it. Um, and they say it's designed to go over people's glasses, so it kind of gives you a bit of an idea of the demographic that they're expecting. But you kind of go in first of all, you check your coat, you're all there with your beautiful attire, and everyone's looking like they're at this beautiful costume party, and they give everybody a glass of champagne, and you go into this room, and there's a violinist there, kind of playing what I can only describe as like an overture. And I'm like, oh yes, of course, all these songs. And then Madame Giry comes in and says, "I'll come with us. We're ready for the thing." And the Phantom has, invited you in, and you were very privileged guests. And so we go into another storeroom, and then she then kind of reads a letter from him and sets the scene and everything. And then she actually kind of, as the dance, the choreographer for the opera, she teaches us all the dance to Masquerade, and it's the first thing, and everyone has to learn how to do it. And then the whole wall just disappears, and then all of a sudden they're there, and you are in the middle of the show, and they're doing
Mm.
Masquerade, and you're in it because you know the choreography, and they're encouraging everybody to do it, and the cast are coming in and grabbing people and moving them all around, and so. Um, that was the moment that I went, oh my God, like this is amazing. And they've got the chandelier, like they've got everything. So it is Phantom of the Opera. It's not like those other kind of like the Punch Drunk stuff where you are actually discovering and wandering around. It's
Mm.
all completely structured and you're all led. So there's six different Christine and Phantoms who will take a group of people through. So each group's about 200 maybe 150, maybe it wasn't that many, maybe 150 people at half-hour intervals. And so we followed them throughout the building. So as we were doing our version of it, there were people who were coming in later and were following in the different places with the other cast. So we had Hugh Panaro, um,
Ooh.
who was like done, what was it like? I think he's like got the most amount of performances in that show as it is. Like, I mean, and he's 60 something. So but yeah, so it wasn't like they were just, people in there on a gig. These are really, seasoned Broadway performers who know the show intimately. And then at the end you come down and they have the whole moment where the chandelier crashes and it's actually the chandelier and it's there in front of you and it's gigantic. And then at the end they kind of take you down into this gothic kind of wine bar and you kind of release and you're allowed to take your phones out again and have a few drinks and at the end they give you the program, so everyone gets a program at the end of it which kind of has an insert so you know which cast members you saw. um
Cool.
But yeah, it was phenomenal. The funniest thing is, as they do the Phantom of the Opera title number, and he takes her down to the lair. You follow down to the lair, and I found myself going down an escalator like I was in a shopping mall, all blacked out. But and yeah, and then they had the boat came in, and it glided around, and we were all sitting on little
Wow.
stools, and they did the whole thing. It was just amazing.
Do you see the
I
show in
think.
sequence?
Sorry,
Do you see the show in sequence in the
it's.
proper sequence, or is it slightly
Uh,
off?
they've kind of cut it up a little bit and mucked around with the structure. There's a whole section in the middle where you go into the Phantom's backstory. I didn't care for that as much. I'm like, no, give me the other songs. But they kind of cut a lot of the other character stuff, so it focuses more on the Phantom, Christine and Raoul, and so you get all of that. Like they cut the letters song, and they cut a little bit of they cut Prima Donna and some of those things, all that other number, and then you kind of yeah, so it kind of runs for 2 hours, and you go through pretty much the show, beat wise, but they just kind of obviously they've got people seeing certain sections of it in slightly different orders because they're trying to move groups of people around the space. Not once did we see another group of people, but I got the feeling that as we were moving out of a space, people were rushing around to make sure that things were ready to go. And then you end up in the dressing rooms with, Carlotta and Piangi at one section, and then they come in and do a bit, and then they go off to do something else, and then the managers come in. So I've had the feeling that the actors were going back and forth between different rooms, doing their little set scene. But yeah, it was just amazing. Like it was tiring because you're on your feet for 2 full hours.
Yeah.
And there was one woman with us who, like, she had a walking stick and she was not particularly impressed with the amount of stairs. But I was like, that's kind of unfortunately part of, that kind of thing. But yeah, it was, and there's a whole section we went up onto the roof and outside. Because it was winter, they have taken the section of the show that they used to perform Wishing You Were Somehow Here Again, and that section on the roof outside. And because of the winter, it's too cold. They've decided they've moved that inside. So you kind of pass through that section and see all of the set dressing, but then you come back in and they do it inside.
Wow. It
Yeah.
sounds like back in 2006, I saw one of these immersive productions. I think it was in Union Square, called Fuerza Bruta, which was like a Argentinian production, and they had the different spaces, and you would move through it, and then all the performers would move between the spaces, and it was like
Yeah.
half-hour increment, audience movements. And I
Yeah.
think that was probably one of the first of its kind. So it sounds very much similar to what you experienced with that. And I,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't recommend it highly enough because it's that you just don't know what to expect, even with, say, the material is something that like from Phantom, it's
Mm.
still surprising. So you get that, nostalgic bit, but then it's also, what's actually going to happen around the next corner. So I think that
And
that's a
that,
great experience to have.
yeah, that's what I think's perfect about this, though, because people know it so well.
Yeah.
It's hard to find surprises in that material. So I think doing it like this puts a whole fresh perspective on it, I think. And it'll be interesting to see how long it runs because it looks to me like it's an incredibly complicated show to run over a long period of time. And
Yeah.
as a performer, I think you'd get exhausted.
Well,
Um,
Sleep No
but
More
I,
kept,
I, I was glad they didn't.
yeah, Sleep No More kept on getting extended though, right? Sleep No More ran for a number of years.
It ran for many years,
But
yeah.
I suppose the thing with that was what I didn't like about that was it was choose your own adventure and you just wandered aimlessly. So if you didn't
Mm.
follow someone, you kind of got lost and didn't get to see the whole thing. Whereas this way, because you were sort of semi-guided through, it
Mm.
kind of made a little bit more sense. So you got a version of the complete story. But what
Yeah.
about because you were moving through different rooms, what was
Mhm.
the orchestration? What was the backing like?
Oh, yeah. So it was fully orchestrated and it was like the full score and like really beautifully. The sound production was amazing. I'm assuming it was like recorded. Like obviously there was the live violinist and he came back a couple of times. But aside from that, it was sung to backing tracks, really, like essentially. But
Mm.
to say that kind of is a bit insulting to the craft, I think, of how they actually managed to construct it. But I think in terms of the way it's moving through the building and how particular music has to be coming out of different setups the whole time, that in itself would have been, just a feat of just sound engineering. So yeah.
Well, I think it's certainly set the scene abuzz in New York, and I just hope that down in Australia, we start to get some of these sorts of reimagined productions of things,
Mm.
rather than just getting a standard old revival. So moving on from Masquerade, you
Mm.
then saw probably the biggest hit of the 25 Tony Awards, maybe Happy Ending with Darren Criss and Helen Shannon.
It was so sweet. I kind of avoided it, like looking anything up and trying. I did listen to the cast recording once, and I had a little cry in the car, going, "Oh, this is really lovely." But yeah, no, it was beautiful, and again, the artistry that went into the design of that production was phenomenal. Like it was the way that they present it, such a unique way at looking at a piece of theatre. So for me, I didn't really consider it like a Broadway musical because it felt to me like just stylistically, it felt like a different play. So you had like this little apartment, and there's Darren Chris's character, and he's this robot who's being kind of, decommissioned, and there's this apartment building where they send all these robots, and it's in the future, and it's in Seoul, and they all kind of live in these little apartments because they just wait for them to run down. And so it's this kind of allegory about the human condition. And so, every day he gets a new part ordered and he fixes himself up, and then he starts to get to this point where the parts aren't made anymore, and he's kind of having to make peace with the fact that he's eventually going to kind of fall apart and not be able to function anymore. And so it's that kind of tension that encourages one of the girl robots from next door to come in because she needs to borrow his charger because her charger doesn't work anymore and they don't make them. And then they are forced into this relationship where she's got this battery that's running down, and there's this limited time that she has before she kind of ceases to. Oh, I know. But it was just beautiful, and the performances were great. Really small cast. There were like, I think maybe were there 4 or 5? I think there were maybe 4 or 5 people in it. So the two leads. There was a guy that kind of the the owner that used to own Darren Chris's character was really into jazz music, so he's got all the records, and whenever he plays the record, this performer appears out of nowhere as the person who's the jazz singer, and then you've got this the other actor who plays his owner in flashbacks, and then of course the son of the owner, because the story like goes, I think almost over nearly a 20-year period. So yeah, it was just really lovely storytelling, and just visually they had this kind of conceit that they had these light boxes on the stage that they kind of came in and out and kind of drew your focus. And so they were using a lot of scrims and flies to kind of focus the scenes and kind of have all the set moving around behind them. So it was just beautiful. It was really, really lovely. I think it was probably, I would say maybe top 3 for me.
Oh, fantastic.
And there were a lot. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you hear any buzz? I know for a while Darren's obviously announced that he's going to be finishing his run, and there was a bit of an uproar about the casting of the role because a lot of people wanted an
Yeah.
Asian person to be cast in that role. Was there anything on ground when you were there about that issue?
Not really. I think at the point now he's come back. Like, I mean, I think the reason why he came back, he's one of the producers on that show.
Yeah.
So it was in his best interest to make sure that everything was working. And so I think he's going to stay with it as long as he can. And so I think that was the commitment. But I don't know. I think that might have been handled a little bit poorly, because I think when you look at the show, um, it's got that setting, and I think a lot of people got hung up on, oh, no, if it's set in Korea, people have to be Korean. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. In Australia, we kind of go, well, yeah, like, I mean, I think we look at casting in a slightly different way to the Americans. The Americans are very rigid about their casting. Not that I would suggest that you should have a white person play it, but I think there was probably a little bit more flexibility in it. But I think they did kind of just go, hey, here's a white guy, which is
Yeah.
always a bad move. But
It
yeah,
was
so I think
Helen
had they made a better
J.
choice and
Shannon's
announced it
partner,
in a better way. Huh?
it was Helen J. Shannon's partner who went into it, wasn't it? After Darren Criss left the first time.
Yeah. So, but and then also too, like, I mean, I think their understudies and swing performers that they've got are just people. I didn't actually look at their cultural heritage because I wasn't reading the program, I was watching the show.
Okay.
So yeah, so I think it's interesting. All of that stuff, it is political. And I guess in this day and age, you've got to be really careful, because if the message gets out wrong, and I think that's what happened with that, they kind of, they had a decision that made sense to them, but the message got out a bit wrong. And of course, social media does what it does and misconstrues things. So it was good to see him back. I was glad that I didn't get any covers on anything that I saw the whole time, which is great, because last time I went to the UK, every show we got was a cover, no one was on. Um, so that was good. So I was a bit concerned about that because I was particularly concerned about making sure that I had the cast that I was going over there to see in Death Becomes Her, and I was insisting if I don't get Jennifer Samaj, I'm going to kick off.
Yeah,
And so yes.
we'll skip over to Death Becomes Her in a second, but just quickly, before you saw Death Becomes Her,
Mhm.
after Baby Happy Ending, you went to Studio
Yes.
50,
What did I do next?
54 to see the new contemporary adaptation of Oedipus
Oh,
with
Oedipus.
John Leslie Manville.
Mm.
Oh, and we love Leslie Manville.
Adore Leslie Manville.
I love her. She'll always be Jean Duran. She's so wonderful. Mark Strong is this whole this was great. This was absolutely great. And I went in going, oh, I'll go see a play.
You
But
saw a
this
lot of
is
plays.
yeah. Well, like three, I think, maybe.
More
Yeah.
than I say one per trip. One per trip without songs. The rest of them's got to be music.
Well,
Yeah.
listen, I was impressed by all the plays that I saw, so I think I might be having a renaissance with plays. Yeah, no, Oedipus was fantastic. This is transferred from the West End production, and I think it may or may not be like it's still kind of in the Olivier period, so it may or may not be up for some awards, or it may have just been considered. Um, Very, very clever production, very, very clever rewrite of the original script. It keeps all of the original story beats of the ancient Greek, tragedy, but it's been updated. It's election night. Oedipus is now, running for, prime minister. And it's 2 hours before the polls close, and they're in the offices that they've rented for the campaign. And so they're there, they're having a family dinner, they're winding everything up, they're packing up the offices. There's a big, huge timer on the back wall that's timing down to when the polls close. And the play goes for 2 hours. So you're there watching the clock the whole time going, oh my God, what's going to happen? They've only got this amount of time. Well, who's going to come? And
Yeah.
so the tension was so cleverly constructed. And the just again, the artistry of being able to manufacture all of the action so everything worked to the time and it all fit, so that when you got to that moment at the end where of course things go quite poorly at the end of Oedipus, that reveal, we know it's coming, but we don't know how. And so you're just on the edge of your seat. Now, of course, the first thing that happens to me when I walk into the theater and the ushers all say, no photography, everyone sit in your seat, you're not allowed to leave the theater, it's 2 hours, no interval. And the minute you tell me there's no interval and it's 2 hours long, I go, I need to go to the toilet. It's my first thought. But I have to say, after about 5 minutes, I was like, okay, I think I'm all right. I can ignore my bladder. And I can sit here. I was particularly hungover that day because I had followed Maddie's suggestion of going to Don't Tell Mamas the night before, but I did not follow your suggestion of making sure I counted my drinks. So yeah, I was a little bit worse for wear. So I was sitting there a little bit sweaty, going, "Oh God, am I going to be able to cope through this?" But it blew me away.
Yeah.
Like it was amazing. At 2 o'clock on a Saturday, and it snowed on everybody waiting to go into the theater. So everyone's all there in their coats and they're all wet and dripping and trying to get in. But
I just
yeah,
love
no, it was
the
just
entrance of Studio 54 is just beautiful.
yeah, that big corridor.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I was
It's
like, oh,
like,
why won't they let anybody stand in there before the show? It's like
well, it's
everyone's
not
out on the
that,
street
yeah.
going, oh.
There's not much space between that corridor and the stage itself. So,
No, once you're in, you're in. Yeah,
yeah.
it's funny the way those theaters are done. But yeah, look, that what great, and I think it closes in the next week or so.
Yeah, by the
There's
time
gonna be a
this
lot
comes
of
out,
talk
it'll be
about it.
finished.
I think
Do you
yeah,
think it'll be up for a Tony?
I think it might win Best Play.
Okay,
I think
right.
it's great. Everybody who's spoken about it, said it's magnificent. So there's that Liberation, which I didn't get a chance to see, and Marjorie Prime are the ones that seem to be people are talking about. And I did get to see Marjorie Prime.
Well, we're going to have to get you back on the pod when we do our Tony specials, and
Oh yeah.
we'll tick off and see how many that you've correctly predicted.
Oh, we should do a Tony's ballot when we do our Tony's episode. Let's talk about that offline.
Yeah.
And that could be a fun time. But then the next one is the one that I'm most jealous about you seeing, and
Mm,
my biggest amount of FOMO, and
Mhm.
that was Death Becomes Her,
Yeah.
which a musical remake of the movie, starring initially Tony-nominated Megan Hilty and
Mhm.
Tony-nominated Jennifer Samard
Yep.
uh, as Madeline Ashton and
Helen
Helen
Sharp.
Mm.
Sharp. Now, Hilty had left just before.
Yeah, now she extended her run to like 2 days before I got there. And I felt like emailing her and saying, "Hey." So I
You
did. I
probably,
just
she
missed it.
probably would have answered because she loves Australia.
Well, the other thing too is I noticed that Jennifer Samard was out on Christmas holidays, so she was back in the show the week that I was there. So I was like, aha!
Ah,
So it's all aligned. And so yeah, and then
okay.
Betsy Wolfe I think had done a couple of performances as Madeline, and so it was really great to see her really fresh in that role. Um, and see the two of them kind of, yeah, it was this nice kind of, you could tell that Jennifer Samard was kind of a bit kind of, oh, this is a bit fresh, this is a bit new, let's play, like let's kind of, try some new stuff. And so Betsy Wolfe's Madeline is so different from Megan Hilty's Madeline. It's funny, I kind of, she played her like, it's so funny, she played her like Madeline was just trailer trash. Like it was so much more because yeah, Megan Hilty has that kind of imperiousness to her. Like it's that Jane Krakowski thing. Like she kind of even her Jenna Maroney had this sense of class to her, but Betsy Wolfe was broad. She was playing that comic broad, and you could tell that
Okay.
Madeline was a poor kid from a caravan who, hit the big. So hers was, it was funny to see her take on it. Um, Obviously, she's a wonderful performer. I saw her the last time I saw her, I think, was in Bullets Over Broadway, and she also, I think, was Anne Hathaway and Anne Juliet. So she like she's around. She does all
Mm.
sorts of stuff. So she seems to be the person that people go to when they're replacing people. But yeah, no, she was magnificent, and yeah, just lavish Broadway musical, which was what I wanted. And there's not much of that happening at the moment.
No, there's not.
Yeah, when you talk about that compared to chess, you're like, yeah, hey chess, how about a set maybe? So it was. How
We
about some costumes, chess?
blame what was it, Nicole Scherzinger's production of
Well, in a way,
yeah.
but again, that's the talk at the moment in terms of a lot of the industry talk is about people are making less and less creative decisions in terms of design and giving people less and less on stage. So that was the criticism of Ragtime being a period piece with not much set in it, and then again Chess with a bit of scaffolding. I was like, oh, I'm just watching a concert again.
Mm.
But yeah, no, Death Becomes It lavish. They didn't spare any expense on any of the costumes, the settings, all of the illusions and the theatricality of it, and that big stair sequence. All of that was just magnificent. It was all just very hilarious and all very well done. So you get your money's worth with Death Becomes Her.
There's
Cool.
been
Now,
a there's been a lot of movies that have been adapted to musicals,
mm,
a couple of which are running in Sydney at the moment. Most of them aren't working. But
Yeah.
what makes Death Becomes Her work?
Well, it's written by people who understand musical theatre. And I think that's the main thing. Like, I mean, the reason why I don't like Pretty Woman is because it doesn't work. Like, because like, why would you get Bryan Adams to write a musical? So, and again, it was like the issue that I had with what was that show called? Back to the Future. That was kind of, the guy who wrote the script for the original film was the producer of that show. So he was really attached to his script, which was
mm,
amazing. And it did all the work. So the songs kind of stuck out. And so in shows like that, I find often it's kind of made for the wrong reasons and by the wrong people. But I think with Death Becomes Her, the composers and the lyricists of that show and the book writer, they come from that world. There's that sense of they're in that community. They understand what types of songs you need and what you need the songs to do. And so, yeah, and so when they work, you don't notice them so much. They just seamlessly seem to fit into it. And of course, like the camp factor is also there as well. So that in itself works for the show. So the songs can feel outlandish, but in the show itself, the whole thing seems to make sense. Like there's a whole Avenue Q sequence in the second act when
Yeah.
Ernest gets like really drunk trying to figure out what to do, and all he's down in the tool shed, and all the bottles and things come alive as little puppets, and like that's a very silly joke,
yeah.
but that sort of humor comes from people getting, understanding how, the moving boxes were singing in Avenue Q. And like, it's kind of, you can see where it all came from. So there's a logical sense with it. Yeah. So I think obviously we're going to get a lot, like, I mean, this year, the two big musicals that are opening in the spring are Beaches,
Mm.
which could go either way. And then The Lost Boys, which Could go
Mm.
either way. The music I've heard from Lost Boys sounds really serious and dramatic and earnest.
And
But
that's
to me, Lost
Shoshana,
Boys,
Shoshana
yeah, and
Bean.
then you got Shoshana Bean playing the Diane Weiss part. I'm like, not much of a part in the
Mm.
movie, but hopefully they've written it up. So those are two big things that are going to come in the spring. Um, and so
Do you think
they
that
could
also
probably,
is just audience appeal as far as trying to get more quote unquote mainstream people? Like you've got,
yeah.
Death. I was going to ask you about the variances between different audiences at the different productions. So, like, I would assume Death Becomes Her would have a more, oh, we're going to go see a Broadway show, but I'm Karen from the Midwest and I don't know what's what. Am I going to see Death Becomes Her
Uh,
because I know that that's a movie? Is
yeah,
that
I
that's the same
think.
appeal as like Back to the Future would have had?
Yeah,
Um,
I think Death Becomes Her was a slight, I think there's this weird kind of queer thing with that as well, where it was just full of like, 40, 50-year-old gay men.
yeah.
And then like younger groups of women like going, yeah, like
Mm,
but not like people who didn't understand theater. I think um, the most touristy audience I think I sat in was Chess and Great
mm,
Gatsby. Those were the two touristy audiences because I think those are things everybody knows. Death
mm.
Becomes Her, although like it's been a huge influence in my life. I think quite often we kind of misjudge how many people really do sit and watch that film at least once a week since 1992. And it's not that many. And so I think it's a very, very important property to, I think, a small group of people, but they've managed to break through with a piece of theatre that is entertaining to a lot of people. But the other stuff, and particularly with things like, the new stuff coming in, Beaches and the Lost Boys, is people know it already.
Mm.
Everybody knows it. And it's not just, the gays know it, or it's not just, the Midwest people know it. It's a recognizable thing that if you saw it on a bus stop, you'd already know it automatically what it was. So there's fewer and fewer gambles with those sorts of things that are going on. But then ironically, Hadestown's still running, so that was a
Mm.
completely original concept. It's just what people are adapting from now. Like, I mean, in the 80s, everyone was adapting novels, and now everyone's just adapting movies from the 90s.
Yeah, we
So
had a
it's not
big
like
period
that's
as well.
changed.
Yeah, we had a big
Yeah.
period as well of like, Green Day with American Idiot, and then
Uh,
the multiple attempts at Spider-Man. um,
oh,
you know,
yes.
but it's like, but back in the Australian scene, we seem to it's either whatever Disney wants to throw in, and it's usually a repeat performance of The Lion King,
Hmm.
or Back to the Future was okay. Now we've got Beetlejuice, which is cutting its runs. Brisbane
Yeah, which is
last
a
stop on
shame
that
because
one.
Beetlejuice is actually a good show.
Yeah, it is.
That actually cuts through, and I think with that, it's the surprise of coming into the to see that and how see Eddie Perfect. I think actually he's a good composer for theatre because he gets
Mm.
what those songs need to do. And so, as funny and as zany as that show is, it actually is a really good show at the heart of it.
Now,
Um,
interestingly, with just on Beetlejuice for a second, um, it cancelled the Singapore production. We
yeah.
thought that it was only going to be playing in Brisbane. They have announced this week that it is now playing a season in Perth. So
Oh, great.
I don't think an Australian tour, is completely off the cards. I think they're going
Mm,
to see how it goes in Brizzy and Perth, and then go from there. But Death Becomes Her playing at the Lunfontaine Theatre. It's got an open-ended run at the moment, and they're going to launch an
mm.
American tour later
Mm.
this year.
Yes, they are.
My sources also tell me that Michael Castle is very seriously considering bringing it down under with an Australian production, and I will be first in the queue of the Marnie McQueen fan club to campaign for
Yeah.
Marnie McQueen to play Madeline Ashton in the upcoming Sydney production when it's announced.
And Marina Pryor's got to be in there somewhere as well. She'd be as camp as a row of tents.
Well, don't forget the viola role as well, like that I saw
Yeah.
Michelle Williams play,
Yeah.
who is great until she has to walk around the stage. Um, now
Every
she's
time I walk
magnificent.
in a
Her
dress.
singing's amazing. Her acting was great, but the minute she had to walk downstairs or walk across the stage, she just froze and just like, and I'm like, is this a directorial choice or are you frightened you're going to fall off the stage? Um, but she did look at me in the
Virginia
audience and gave me
Gay.
a little one of these.
Virginia Gay would
Oh,
be also great casting for that too.
yeah. Oh, like once you get going with some of those, like we've got
This is
such
great.
great talented actresses in Australia.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
reckon if anyone out there watching or listening, pop your suggestions down in the comments. I'd love to see who you think should
Mm.
be in the Australian production of Death Becomes Her.
For what it's worth, my 2 cents worth, Marnie McQueen and Gemma Riggs.
Ooh.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
You heard it here first, folks.
she'd sing it. She'd sing the hell out of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
All
I
right,
can't
Michael.
wait to see I can't wait to see my Death Becomes Her playbill on Saturday when you come over for dinner, Dan.
Oh, it's here. I've got it
Oh,
here.
Hey.
God, it's beautiful.
Okay, so
It
which
is.
was the production that you had Patti
Now, from
LuPone's
there, we're going to
Playbill?
do the Outsiders.
Oh, we up to. Oh, well, okay. These are two things. So I, Patty left her playbill at Two Strangers Carry a Cake Across New York,
Okay.
which is a very hard to say musical. But that story is interesting because I was sitting there in the audience and I was ready to go and I was kind of just doing I'm on my own thing, just being kind of, a bit enigmatic. And then all of a sudden there was this kind of feeling in the room and everyone was like, like this. And I thought, what's going on? Like, what's happened? Like, is this someone fallen outside? And everyone's like, oh, Patty's here, like this. And I was like, what? And I turned and she was in my row. And I was like, oh my God. And so everyone's like grabbing their phones like this, like trying to get photo, obviously, so she doesn't see because you know what she's like. But then I kind of turned around and I went, and she's with Brooke Shields. Like, so I had a twofer. It was great.
Wow. It's
So
either Brooke Shields or Chelsea Clinton.
yeah, well, it was so funny. Well, see, so she was sitting just on the aisle, just near me. But there was obviously like people like going, "Oh, Mr. Famous Man," and I was like, "Oh, I don't want to be that person," because I'd had a run in with Cheyenne Jackson earlier in the week where I got quite embarrassed because I stage doored them and I was standing there just like watching him and Jinx Monsoon like signing things, and he turned to me and he went to like to take my phone, like, "Do you want a picture?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I'm just observing," and I said it before. I was like, and he looked at me like, "Oh, okay, yeah, cool," and I was like. Yeah, I'm not getting that moment back. Thanks, Cheyenne. So yeah, so I was like, I'm not going to embarrass myself in front of Patty LuPone. So I kind of stood back a little bit and I gave her a very polite, like across the thing. So she made eye contact with me. So I've looked at her, and yeah, no, she literally as soon as the final note hit that last moment of the show and they went to the curtain call, she's like zoom straight out into the cab. So and she left her playbill behind. So I of course very graciously just swooped it up and just popped it in my jacket pocket. And one of the ushers looked at me and went, like as if I approve.
Yes, the nod of approvement.
Yeah. So you make friends with the ushers because they're all volunteers so they're just there for the drama. So yeah, they love stories. Yeah, so that was that moment.
While we're on Two Strangers Carry a Cake,
Yeah.
tell us about that.
It was really sweet. Yeah, I really liked it. I think at the moment, in terms of new musicals, looking at what already had been on, and I'd forgotten when I talked to you about this before, I think it's got a really good chance. It's going to be nominated, I'm sure. I'm not entirely sure it's going to win. At the time, I thought maybe it will, but that depends on whether, those two biggies, because you've got actually got three big musicals coming in. You've got Beaches, The Lost Boys, and of course Titanic. Which is coming with its Broadway style cast. And the rumor is that Rose is going to be played by Anna Kendrick.
Ooh.
Oh, because they haven't announced Rose yet. They've announced everyone but.
Yeah,
that
and
would
so
be incredible.
yeah. So she probably won't now that I've said it. I'm ruining the negotiations, but yeah. So that in itself that should be considered a new musical. So that would be in the mix.
How long do they have to run? Because we've only got between recording and the Tonys, it's only 3.5, 4 months.
I think they've just got to open before the 25th of April.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Titanic, like, I mean, there were a lot of empty theaters. I'm kind of like, we could, I was like, if I had a keyboard, I'd jump into one of these. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was kind of like, hey, got a show? Let's have a week or two. So, I think to be eligible, you have to run. You have to run for over a week. This is information about the Tonys that I learned from watching 30 Rock. So it has to run for over a week and it has to be the same show every night. So
Playbill.com does publish the results of the Tony Eligibility Committee meeting weekly in the lead up when they are making judgments on what new shows are eligible for what categories at the awards. You can track all of that down on Playbill.com.
Cool.
Yeah, which is a great place to go for all that kind of gossip as well. But because Queen of Versailles had it, of course, just closed, and it was very sad watching them take Kristen's picture down as I walked past the theatre. But that's the theatre, the St. James. That's where Titanic is going. So, one queen falters, another rises. So I think Titanic's probably going to do quite well because, again, it's that thing. Like, Oh Mary's really popular because there's nothing else that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People aren't getting enough of a laugh, and they really want a good laugh. And Titanic is very, again, a really tight show. Yeah.
So just going back to Two Strangers for a second,
Yep.
does it fall victim to the same thing as Everybody Loves Jamie, where there's like about two really good songs in it that everyone jumped on as soon as the video started coming out and as soon as the soundtrack was released, and then the rest of it's good but just doesn't live up to the rest of those two songs that really sort of caught on.
Yeah, I think listening to the cast recording would probably leave you a little bit, because I listened to it on the plane on the way back after I saw it, and I think the appeal of that show is how charming the two actors are. And they're like the whole thing itself. It's not just the songs. There's a couple of songs there that are really catchy, and catchy songs are also something that is kind of missing in some of the shows. Because I also went to The Outsiders, and I'm like, not one bloody hummable tune in that show.
Okay.
And so looking at Two Strangers Carry a Cake, it's something that's been imported from the UK. It feels very poppy, which is a very kind of, that you can hear a little bit of Eurovision in the writing of it, just in terms of the catchiness of some of the songs.
Mhm.
But the show itself is the charm of the two of them, and it's on this one multifunctional set that's made up of all these different sized like luggage and suitcases, and it all just turns around and they become different sections. So to me, that felt very off Broadway. So I think it's having a very lucky year that they actually have managed to transfer that to Broadway into a Broadway theater. Whereas in another season, maybe they wouldn't have been able to do so, and it would have been an off-Broadway show because it did feel a little bit off-Broadway.
Kind of hit the same sort of note as the year A Band's Visit got up because it just sort of happened to be the right show, right off Broadway type of vibe to get up. Now you did see Tartuffe with Matthew Broderick. Um,
Mm.
I
And
love
David
Matthew Broderick.
Cross, yeah.
Oh,
Amber Gray, and Bianca Del Rio, who was the highlight of the production. Now, I had to go all the way downtown for this, so I had my shots. And I had to go down to like down to the Bowery. So I was at the New York Theatre Workshop. So I think I don't know, this production to me feels as though they're expecting this to be like a tryout and then maybe perhaps look at moving to Broadway. But for me, I don't know, it just kind of lacked the humor. I think the ensemble work was really great. And I think Bianca Del Rio, again, was another one of those. She kind of, she played exactly what they needed her to play in terms of the cast. And she's exactly the person you would cast in that role. She kind of comes in at the beginning and just yells at everybody and then goes off again and then comes on at the end. So she's like the old mother. Um, in her full drag makeup, which was a little bit weird compared to everybody else. But it was just such a great cast, but I'm not quite sure I liked it. I don't think it quite worked. Like Moliere, I mean, I know it's very, very old, but a lot of his stuff is very like silly and ridiculous and funny, and I'm not entirely sure this production worked. So I think the translation that they did, they kind of updated it a bit, but they still kind of kept it in rhyme, and so it
mm.
felt a little bit, I don't know. There was just something about it that didn't quite work for me. And again, another play without an interval, but that's okay because I didn't have a glass of wine beforehand.
okay,
So
going
I
on,
stayed in my seat the whole time.
moving
But
on from
again, I was in the front row for that one, so they were acting on top of me.
uh, so moving on from that, another play, Marjorie Prime.
Oh, yeah, Marjorie Prime was really interesting. So it's about this old woman who's suffering from dementia, and of course, she's moving into this like the end of life care, and her daughter and son-in-law get her an AI replicant of her husband to help her with her Alzheimer's and to talk to her and learn and like keep her active. Um,
Is that the
and
role that
so
Cynthia Nixon plays?
No, Cynthia Nixon's the daughter. So,
Oh,
and again, I don't really want to give too much away about this because it is a great play. But the funny thing about it, the play was written like 12 or 13 years ago. So it's been around for a while. So
okay.
this is a revival. Cynthia Nixon, Danny Burstein, who I love,
Mm.
was great. They played the children. June Squibb was Marjorie. June
Oh,
Squibb
wow.
is 96 years old
Mm.
Yeah, hey,
and still doing plays on Broadway. I was like, that was amazing. Like, and I just, and her performance was just beautiful because it was a really complicated premise because there's the idea that she's talking to this and the film version of it, he's played by John Hamm. So well, who was the actor that did it? It was Christopher Lowell who played the husband. But the husband, she's chosen this AI version of the husband that was the husband when he was 30. So there's this hint that comes out through the dialogue that something happened to the couple when they were young that kind of changed things. And she and her old age and her Alzheimer's and forgetfulness is kind of connecting with this period. So he, as the husband, is very young. The daughter doesn't like it. She thinks that it's kind of all really creepy. And then it kind of progresses from there. And just a great play, great dialogue, really interesting premise.
Mm.
There's a few surprises all the way through where things happen that you go, oh, wow, okay, I didn't even realize. And it kind of creeps up on you. Um, and it kind of talks about this whole idea at the end. There's like the AI versions of the characters are kind of sitting around the kitchen table, and the humans are all gone, and they're all kind of just telling each other and remembering things. And it's kind of this sense of like, this next generation of kind of passing on knowledge and memory. So it was a play all about that. So it was really, really interesting. It wasn't necessarily a comedy. It had a couple of moments that were humorous. But gee, Cynthia Nixon's a great actor. She's
Mhm.
so good. And Danny Burstein actually. So actually, all of them are really great. So it's so wonderful to see these actors get to just do it. It was just great, really great acting.
I think that's
Yeah.
the thing is that when you know a personality or a celebrity of sorts, that, like Cynthia, that, you get to see her do her craft. It's
Mm,
surprisingly impressive, even though, well, you've got to have the chops to be able to do, something like Sex and the City because it's a
yeah.
very hard job to do, script or not. But I think that's the interesting thing because isn't Marjorie Prime kind of has vibes of maybe happy endings as well. This whole
Well, that
kind
was
of
the thing. I was like,
inclusions of
oh, is this what?
robotics and
Yeah, all of it kind of seemed to kind of thematically link for me. I was like, oh, okay, they
yeah,
seem to be the same sort of thing. But yeah, no, it may have, maybe it inspired the production team at second stages, when they saw maybe happy endings. It's like, oh, remember that play that's been around because I feel the play's very ahead of its time because the whole thing about the AI, I was like,
yeah.
we're all kind of freaking out about that now. So it was interesting to see that. But yeah, really, really good, really, really thought-provoking, and again, really kind of moving ending, and left you thinking a lot. I walked
So
out of the theater going, hmm.
yeah, talking about you also went and got to see Chess. Now, was Leah Michelle in it when you saw it?
Yeah, they were all in it. I didn't get
Oh,
any
okay.
covers.
Yeah.
Look, I think the cast recording is going to be what stands the test of time with this. Orchestrations, fantastic. Singing, amazing. Choreography, weird.
Mm.
Costuming, strange.
Thoughts on
The new book. Now, the new book was written by Danny Strong. Now, Danny Strong, we might remember from Buffy the Vampire Slayer as Jonathan, but it kind of. Oh, I didn't like it because I
you
don't.
ever at all? You messaged me afterwards and said that was one of the worst things you saw in your whole trip.
Oh, I do like to talk in hyperbole. Yeah, look, I think the first thing is Bryce Pinkman comes out as like a narrator character, and he basically goes, "Hey, you know how chess is really stupid? Okay, so we're going to do chess." Like, and he kind of like sets up this framework around it where they're kind of making fun of the show, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, so you've made no effort to try and 'cause people always talk about how to fix chess, and I think with chess, I think what would have worked is just lean into the melodrama. It's great, big, stupid moments, but if it's all sung through, then it kind of works. But if you have
Mm.
all those songs and then you write all this script around them where you're telling us the story rather than actually having moments between the characters. But because basically he kind of came out and just like, and he made all these Trump jokes. And I was like,
Mm.
oh, this just feels really cheap. So he's kind of, like he's like waka wakaing at the audience the whole time, like an MC. And essentially, the actors kind of came out and just sang the songs in their scenes and then kind of went away again. So they didn't really have many moments where they were actually kind of performing or acting or telling the story. So it kind of put me at a distance trying to get involved in chess. But obviously, it's still got that the really great score. And all of those songs were just beautifully performed, beautifully sung. That's what people, I think, a general audience probably is going, oh yeah, chess was heaps. I was so funny, but I was like, chess isn't meant to be funny. Like, why is it funny?
I
Um,
think the appeal for the general
oh,
population is because it's ABBA-esque. You know.
Yeah, yeah, but it is again. It's that 80s. It's that
Mm.
great big 80s sound, and there's a there's a great show in there. Now, I mean, I know Damien's much more, familiar with chess than I am because you've been a bit of a fan since the beginning of chess. But it was again, it was one of those shows that was kind of, I knew a few of the songs, but I was never familiar with the whole show. So when I sat down to see it all in one go, I kind of went, oh, this is a mess. Um,
The problem is it's never worked in a full theatrical production, except in the production that was mid 90s in Australia, with
with our friend Jodie Gillies.
Jody
Yes.
Gilly, Maria Mercedes, Robbie Krupski as the Russian, and I think John Wood
Blue Healers.
as the I want to say the
He was
arbiter.
old Deuteronomy.
Um,
Yeah.
it worked. That's the only time it's ever
Yeah.
worked theatrically. The only other times that has worked as a show is in the concert stagings of it.
Well, there was elements of that because the whole band was on stage and they were kind of there. I'm like, oh, don't give me a band on stage. I want to look at I want pretty things. I want to look at things. I don't want to watch the vibe. So, but there's
Aaron Kevin, he was a pretty thing to look at.
he did a line of coke off one of the dancers' legs in the middle of One Night in Bangkok, which I kind of
Uh,
went, oh, this song's kind of racist. Because they came out in the second act and they're all in all the ensemble are in these grey kind of pantsuits because they're just this stern ensemble. And then as the beginning of One Night in Bangkok starts, they all just rip off all their clothes and they just do the whole thing in their bikinis. And I was
look,
like, this isn't the heat is on in Saigon. What's happening?
to quote Lily Savage, Aaron Tevitt could slap me around and fiddle with whatever the fuck he likes. Honestly. But yeah, and Leah Michelle's vocals, the song stealing Leah Michelle in this production. She stole
She,
a
no, I
song
know,
that
she
was
stole all Svetlana's
originally dedicated
material.
to another character.
She was okay. I was just upset for her because she had bad wigs. She had two bad wigs. But she did a lot of she had nothing to work with. So because they wrote these weird scenes around the songs, I think people might be criticizing her as not being a great Florence. But I think she did all right considering they had nothing for her to work with. And she's at her best when she's over singing. And there was a little bit of that. But that's kind of you go, oh well, if we're not going to get an amazing story out of this, let's just have the great music. And so she delivered. She's
And
really good.
it sounds like it kind of fell over with the direction a bit too.
Yeah, yes. I think, yeah, lazy direction, choreography a bit weird, costuming not wonderful. Like it was just a whole bunch of choices, I thought. There's an amazing documentary about what happened to chess by Wait in the Wings, who has that YouTube channel. And it's a big 2.5 hour kind of look at the whole inception of the show, what happened to it originally, and that transfer to Broadway and what happened there. So if you want any more reasons to hate Trevor Nunn, watch that documentary because it kind of man alive, he becomes out as the villain in that documentary. But yeah, that kind of I'm glad I looked at that before I went. I know a lot about chess, and now I go, okay, have I seen chess? I'm not sure. Is this is this going to be the definitive version of it now? I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, well, it's playing at the Imperial Theatre in New York. Performances are going to go through till, I think, April 28th, but make sure if you want the appropriate cast, there are blackout dates for key performers through February, March, and April. So make sure that you check your ticketing agency before buying the tickets. So the tickets can be kind of pricey, up to nearly, $460. And with exchange rates, that's a lot of cash to dole out if you're not going to get the performers you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Broadway are usually pretty good with letting you know on the websites where if people are not going to be in. So I did do a lot of that checking beforehand, and that was quite easy to make sure that I had that information. So that was good.
Yep.
And then rounding out your trip, you finished with The Great Gatsby.
Did you see this when you were there?
No, it wasn't on when I was there. So you saw it with Jeremy Jordan's back in it.
Back again?
And he is playing his final performance as Joe Gatsby on March 7, after which he is taking over from Jonathan Groff in
Just in time. Yeah. That was the one thing I missed. I missed Jonathan Groff in that because it was just too complicated to try and get in because he was in and out because he was having some holidays. So I missed that. So so I got to see the person who's going to do it next. Yeah.
So Gatsby, my feeling on Gatsby, and again, I've listened to the soundtrack a couple of times. There's a couple of really good numbers in it, but does it just not work as a show?
The staging and the design and everything about the production is amazing, but I kind of am like, nah. I kind of came out at the end just going, nah. You know, it's kind of one of those, hey, do you know that rich people are horrible? I'm like, well, that's kind of like what The Great Gatsby is. I'm like, well, that's exactly what I was expecting. Yeah, it didn't really kind of grab me. But then I might have, it might have been me because I was, this is towards the end of the run and I'd seen a whole bunch of stuff before then. So I was comparing to others. But I did think spectacle-wise, it was amazing. The way they used the technology in line with their sets. They had a lot of projection work that was interactive. We didn't feel weird for something set in the 20s. But yeah, I kind of was like, I got to the second act and I was like, oh, that's right. All this happens in this. I forgot because I was coming back to me. I was having bad flashbacks to the Baz Luhrmann film, which it made me want to go and watch again. So it's a thumbs down for me on that.
Baz Luhrmann does gives me a headache. Just the way that he directs it and cuts it all together. It's like flash, 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 flash.
Yeah, but that's a choice. It's a style.
I can't keep up. So
we like a big swing.
We do like to play red carpet or red flag with all of our guests. So reflecting back on all of the shows that you saw, what's your red carpet for your favorite your big red carpet moment for the
my top?
Yeah.
I think it has to be Ragtime. Yeah. Uncontroversially.
Is there footage of Casey doing Back to Before available on YouTube? We'll have to have a look for that.
Yes, there is. There's a performance of her doing it on the morning show. I'm like, oh, the morning show, but she knocks it out of the park. Yeah, and there's little clips of bits and pieces of it around. Yeah, it was really good. It was really good.
And your red flag of the trip?
Oh, The Outsiders.
Yeah.
I was just, like everyone around me was just frothing, going, "Oh my God, it's my favorite musical. It's my 20th time singing." Like, oh, I love it. And I can't, you know what my problem was? I watched it and I was like, didn't have to be a musical.
Yeah.
Like, what? Why are there so many songs? Like,
you know what it was? No one actually turned around to production. Like when we were producing Just Maddie and said, "Maddie, do you really think that's a good idea? Do you really should do that number? Do you really think we should do that show?" No one, they haven't got good friends.
Well,
they just need someone to go,
really?
No, it's not that. I think it's a victim of it's the IP. So everybody knows The Outsiders. Everyone thinks, great, that would be a smash on Broadway. I think it would be a smash on Broadway if it was a play, because they've got enough of this amazing choreography and movement in it that makes it feel like it's a piece of theater. I don't think it needed to be a musical. I didn't think the songs really served much of a function because the style of the music didn't necessarily give me much of a period of it, and it kind of just got in the way. And I was like, oh, I would have liked to have seen more of that. Now, that fight rumble scene that they did on the Tony Awards, like that was basically the highlight of the whole show. I was like, I wanted more of that. Like that would have been fantastic. Take a big stylistic swing and just commit to it. And maybe you didn't have to make it a musical, but like on Broadway, it's like, well, people come and see something that's not a musical on Broadway. So,
well, unlike Just Maddie, The Outsiders actually has recouped its initial investment and is extending its run. So it's done something right.
They're just about to do a whole brand new casting of like for the next however long. Yeah,
I think it's going right up until the end of September. So that's a big run. So
it's a big American text. Like, I mean, it's kind of a piece of literature. It's almost like like a To Kill a Mockingbird. Like every kid reads that book in high school. Like even we did in Australia.
Well, yeah, true. That's true. Well, that wraps up our trip through Broadway for the beginning of 2026. Thanks, Dav, for coming on board. So if you want to be found, where can people find you on all the socials and such?
On all the socials, I am DavCav on Instagram, and that is it.
Fantastic. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to let you two go and reminisce and cheers to some further memories and swap playbills. But we'll be back again soon with another conversational topic well worth your time. So obviously it's going to be unfashionably late, of course. So hit subscribe or follow on your platform to be notified when our next episode is live. So until next time, thanks, Dav, for coming on board. Thanks, Maddie, for another amazing episode. And we'll see you all next time.
Bye, everyone.
The Unfashionably Late podcast is produced by Rob Manser and Damian Barrett. You can join us on our socials or visit our website at unfashionablylatepodcast.com.